Hi, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome everybody to another episode of the ACSS News broadcast on sanctions against Russia. We'll try to make sense of everything that's going on, and still a lot of things are going on. And we will guide you through what's happening and what happened recently and why it matters for businesses. My name is Saskia Rietbroek, and I'm the Executive Director of the Association of Certified Sanctions Specialists. Please visit our website at sanctionsassociation.org. So we're going to focus today on what happened last Sunday, on Mother's Day. It was definitely not a day of rest for OFAC. And we saw that the US took several actions in order to increase the pressure on Russia by doing several things. First of all, they listed a bunch of new people, more than 2,000 new people and entities. They issued a couple of new FAQs. And very importantly, there was a ban on key services from US companies that the Russian elites used to hide their wealth and evade sanctions. So let's talk to all of these 3 points. So we'll start with the designations, right? Like I said, over 2,000 entities and companies were listed on Sunday. And some of the important listings were there were executives and board members of two of Russia's most important banks, Sberbank and Gazprom Bank. Now, for those of you who've been following these podcasts and the news in general, OFAC had already placed full blocking sanctions on Sberbank last month. But Gazprom Bank had previously not been touched with US sanctions. So this was the first time. And note that they did not place full blocking sanctions on Gazprom Bank. It's not a full block like what they did with Sberbank or VTB Bank or several other banks. This was not a full block. So the assets of Gazprom Bank are not frozen. It's not prohibited to do any transactions with Gazprom Bank. What they said is that what they did is they actually sanctioned some of their top business executives, so the people at the top of the organization. And they did that according to a White House official in a press conference last weekend. They said they did that to create a chilling effect. They wanted to signal that this bank is not a safe haven. And you still have to be cautious. So why the special treatment on Gazprom Bank? You may know that Gazprom Bank is the main way in which Russia sells gas to Europe. And that's why they've been cautious about shutting down its operations because Europe is, of course, still importing gas from Russia. So they only took actions against its top people. What about some of the other designations that happened on Sunday? A Russian state-owned bank, Moscow Industrial Bank, and 10 of its subsidiaries were designated, and a state-supported weapons manufacturer was designated, and then also many designations in the maritime shipping sector. The US designated a shipping company called Oboron Logistica and several other maritime shipping companies. And because they are transporting weapons and other military equipment for Putin. And in addition to these companies, they also designated 69 of their vessels as blocked property. So they were designated under Executive Order 14024 because they operate or have operated in the defense and related material sector of the Russian federal economy. So that's why these determination of sectors really opened the door to designate people or entities in these sectors. More about that a little bit later because it's relevant here. Now, they also designated Fur Towing, a specialized marine engineering company, and this company will also be blocked now from accessing important U.S. technologies. So what about some of the other sectors? Media was hit big time last weekend. The US has now sanctioned the three main TV stations in Russia: Channel One, Russia One, and NTV. These are all stations owned by the state or controlled by the state, or owned by Putin's closest allies, but they're widely watched in Russia. So this is how most people in Russia get their news. And there is a wind down until June 7 under license 33. So does it matter, right? You may ask, for these Russian TV stations to be on the US list. Well, it does. First of all, US banks will no longer process their transactions if they are done in US dollars, of course. But also, in many cases, they use Western technology like video cameras, microphones, digital sound controls, lighting equipment, etc. And these can no longer be exported, of course, to these TV stations. So really, it will affect them. Does it also affect US companies? Well, actually, yes, because Western companies, including US companies, are among the top advertisers on these TV stations. I read that over 300 million of advertisement is placed on these TV stations, was placed on these TV stations last year. And so, some of these advertisers have already announced since the invasion that they're going to cut their business activity with these stations, but now they actually have to. And then there were like visa restrictions on thousands of Russian and Belarusian military officials, and these included the people who are believed to take part in the Russian military activities in Bucha. So a lot of designations, a lot of new people on the list. What else? Another very, 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 in my opinion, important measure is that the US has issued a ban on the provision of accounting services, management consulting services, and trust and company formation. So these are all services that are used to operate, of course, multinational businesses, but also to potentially create workarounds from sanctions or to hide dirty money. So that's why I think it's an important measure that these services are being shut down to any Russian in this case. So you don't have to be on a list, right, to be excluded from these services. So the US has prohibited, US persons wherever located. So if you're a US person or somebody with a green card in Germany, you cannot provide these services anymore. So we're talking again, accounting services, trust and corporate formation, and management consulting services. And like I said, to anybody located in the Russian Federation. This measure is taken under Executive Order 14071. Now, what are these services? OFAC has issued a couple of FAQs since these measures came out. And let me just read how they define them. So accounting services include services related to the measurement, processing, and evaluation of financial data about economic entities. And there is a general license number 35, that says that the credit or auditing services to any person located in the Russian Federal Federation can be winded down until August 20. They also gave a definition on trust and corporate formation services. So you can think of assisting persons in forming or structuring legal persons, such as trusts and corporations, acting or arranging for other persons to act as directors, secretaries, administrative trustees, fiduciaries, registered agents, nominee shareholders, you name it. Providing a registered office, business address, correspondent address, or administrative address for legal persons, or providing administrative services for trusts. Now, think about this, because these things are normally done by trust and corporate service providers, right? but they can also be done by other professionals like lawyers. So watch out. It's forbidden now to do this, even though you're not, named as a trust and corporate service provider. You cannot provide these services. And then management consulting service. So these were the third type of services that are now prohibited. And these include services related to strategic business advice, organizational and systems planning, evaluation and selection, development or evaluation of marketing programs or implementation, mergers and acquisition, organizational structure, staff augmentation, HR policies and practices, and brand management. So all these services are now prohibited. There are some exceptions, and you can still provide the service to an entity located in Russia if it is owned or controlled directly or indirectly by a US person, and if the service is in connection with the wind down or divestiture of an entity located in Russia that is not owned, controlled by a Russian person. So those are the exceptions. And remember, I talked about earlier about this determination that there were some companies that were listed because they were operating in a particular sector of the Russian economy. The US has also, on Mother's Day, they identified that these services that I just mentioned, right, accounting, trust and corporate formation, and management consulting services, are now determined to be sectors of the Russian economy pursuant to Executive Order 142/24. What does that mean? That it will allow the US to target, in other words, designate, put on the sanctions list, any person who operates or has operated in these sectors. So it doesn't mean that anyone operating in these sectors in Russia is now sanctioned, but they can be placed on the list. So there is it's a sector that has an identified sanctions risk. Okay, so but you actually have to be placed on the list to be off limits. If you remember, just to connect the dots here, the UK had already also recently issued a ban on the similar services. And I think it's just a great step to increase the pressure on the Kremlin and cut off their ability to evade sanctions imposed by the US or other organizations or countries. So it basically means that Russia's businesses can no longer benefit from world-class accountancy and management consultancy services, and that will hurt. I read that some accounting firms had already said that they don't work with any sanctioned Russian and Belarus entity after the invasion in the Ukraine. But this measure actually goes further because you cannot work with anybody in Russia, on the list or not. There is a wind down until I think it's July 7 for these services, so you can still do them until that date. Now, what about legal services, you may ask? Are they included as well? Is there a ban on providing legal services to Russian entities and persons? No. US lawyers, of course, have always been valuable to Russian business people for legitimate purposes, but also, of course, to hide their money and evade sanctions. So why aren't they on the list? They are not included right now. I think they want to sort of carve out an exception for certain legal services, but they have said that in this press conference that I mentioned, a White House official said that they may consider adding legal services at a later date. There will probably be an exception for certain like legal services, but not all legal services. So we'll see what happens later. So this was it in terms of an update from me. I hope you learned something. Hopefully we can give you some a little update on what's going on in the world of sanctions. And if there is any questions, you can post them in the chat. Thank you, Anna. I know it's a lot to keep up with, so that's why we provide these summaries as new things come out. See if there's any questions or comments. Feel free to put them in the on the LinkedIn or the YouTube chat. There's a little bit of a delay, so I may not see it immediately once you post it. All right, thank you, Mathieu, for your comment. And I think that's it then for today. Thank you so much for listening. Please visit our website at sanctionsassociation.org. Check out our courses. We have our certification courses, exam prep courses starting again later this month. So hopefully you feel challenged and get certified with our certification, the CSS. Thank you so much and see you next week. Bye-bye.